Next Best Picture, and we are talking with two of the stars of Splitsville, Dakota Johnson and Adria Arjona. Adria, Dakota, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Very excited to speak with you both. This film, there are several incredibly technically demanding long takes and so many visual gags that I have to imagine were just required a lot of practice and rehearsal. So I'm curious how much prep and rehearsal time you all had with each other. We can start with Dakota.
Well, Audrey and I didn't have we didn't really have a lot together, but we didn't rehearse much at all. And then I had time like months before with the guys because my company produced the movie, and so we spent a lot of time with them on the script, and then I spent a lot of time with them, just the three of us, kind of going through dialogue and moments and character stuff.
I had zero.
Oh,
I had nothing. For some reason, I tend to do that a lot. Yeah, I came in, they were already filming, and I had a couple conversations with Mike about the script, and certain ideas that I had or wanted for Ashley. And then it was just on to the races, and you kind of just figured things out a little bit on the day. And it's a small movie. So we didn't have this whole entire budget for all of us to just rehearse and rehearse. We had to make our days. But yeah, it was a lot of improv and a lot of really quick collaboration and conversations over the weekends. But no, prior to making this movie, I had no idea what I was going to do. Zero.
That makes it even more impressive, frankly, that you pulled this off. It's incredible. Dakota, Julie feels in some ways like the quietest, most down to earth of these characters, but there's a lot going on with her underneath the surface. And I'm curious if you find yourself actively thinking about the subtext of the character when you're in these scenes, having to communicate unspoken things, or if it just comes through.
Yeah, yes. I think the whole thing for me with Julie was that she's really crumbling inside, and she can't be the one to fall apart because she has to hold it all together and be okay for her kid and, take care of everyone. And I think that brings a level of coldness to her and almost like the appearance of being quite grounded and calm, but I think she's raging on a level inside that is like micro vibrations. That is why she chooses to do what she does with Carrie. Like, she makes these decisions that are so surface level flippant, but to her, they mean more. And like, I feel like, the guys, everyone else in the movie kind of figures their shit out. And she's still, to me, at the end of the movie, just like, what the fuck is going on?
I think some audience members are too. There's a lot of craziness that happens in that final scene. It's pretty crazy. We're coming up on the end of our time together, but this film and the characters lean towards the absurd at many points, but their emotions, like you were just saying, Dakota, it all feels very real. So I'm curious for both of you, and you can start with Adria, what you hope audiences learn from Adria and Julie's journeys in this film.
Oh, I don't want to project what I want them to learn from this movie. I want them to have fun and enjoy the journey that these two women, or that these four characters, go on. I don't want to put my fingerprint on that.
Fine too.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great, Dakota.
I mean, I think a lot of Paul and Julie's bullshit could have been figured out like 12 years ago if they had just been brave enough to be honest with each other rather than have these like rules or these stipulations to avoid certain things and avoid certain intimacies or vulnerabilities. I think things would have gone a lot better if they were just honest. So maybe, I don't know, people should be more honest.
Honesty is the best policy, as they say. And since we have time for one quick question, Adria, which of Ashley's lovers would you most be okay with as a housemate?
Ooh, I think Charlie's character, just because he's so fun.
He is a lot of fun. Constantly laughing at everything he did in this movie. That's everything that's
Funny.
yeah.
Funny.
Everyone in this movie is so funny, including and maybe especially the two of you. So thank you so much for your time today talking about it.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Dan Bayer from Next Best Picture, and we are talking with two of the stars and also the writers and also the director of Splitsville, Michael Angelo Covino and Kyle Marvin. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for talking with us.
Very excited to talk to you both. The oldest writing advice I've ever heard is write what you know. And I find it hard to believe that one of you was in an open relationship and the other slept with the other's wife.
Yeah,
so,
this is a true story.
oh, really? What was the catalyst for this film? Where did it come from?
I think a little bit of it was from a lot of our friends who like brag and talk about things, and then you realize that like they're kind of full of shit. No, and I just mean it in a way where you're like, oh, like we whenever you see a character that's so distinct, you kind of go, ooh, I wanna figure out something around that character. And when you have someone going, oh, we're in an open relationship and everything's great and everything, and then like 3 months later they're like, oh, and they explain what happened. There's something like, yeah, like there's a vulnerability underneath that I certainly wanted to explore in the character that I was playing, but also like the idea that you go, hey, everything's fine, it's great, and then you're immediately confronted with the worst possible outcome of that, which is your wife and your best friend sleeping together, and then rather than being okay with it, you're whatever the opposite of okay with it is, and it comes out in a very visceral way.
Confidence is great for comedy.
It is indeed, and it comes out in maybe the funniest way I think I've ever seen on screen. How long have you guys been waiting and practicing for that fight sequence? Because it feels like it was something that has been years in the making.
I mean, we've been fighting each other for 15 years. So.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I've been chomping at the bit to do something like that for a while. Like, and we'll do more of it. But I think like comedy and fighting is like maybe my favorite ingredients. And so it was almost like looking for an opportunity. Like once we figured out that it was grounded in character, where we understood what was driving the fight forward, we were just like, oh, this doesn't ever have to stop. It could go on for 10 minutes and it'll just keep escalating and keep evolving. And as long as it keeps going to different places and leveling up, you kind of are on board with it. So I don't know, it was the perfect recipe. And we kind of just went like, all right, let's lean in and have fun with it.
It was so much fun. And, being in the audience at that screening at Cannes, the premiere, I was not surprised when the audience started applauding after that scene. But what was it like for you guys to hear that?
Well, our producers were like, it was like there was a bets going like, will we get an applause break on the fight? No, everyone wasn't like everyone. We know everyone's gonna love the movie, but it was very much like we had played the movie a couple times for audiences, and it was like, will there be like a applause break? So I was pleasantly surprised when there was.
I think it's funny because it's one of those things you realize in a theater like that with 600 people and they're from all over the world, and some are like reading subtitles and there's a lot of talking in this movie. So I'm amazed that they're tracking with the subtitles, the quantity of subtitle. But there is something so universal about just watching that kind of comedy, that kind of physical comedy, that everyone just sort of leans in. It's one of those things that I think is universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that we can tell that it's really the two of you doing stunts makes it that much better, frankly. In that scene and lots of other scenes in the movie, you guys have these very long, complicated looking long takes. And you did this in The Climb as well. And so I'm curious why you keep returning to this well, and also what would you say to people for whom such things sometimes take them out of the movie?
Well, if it takes you out of the movie, I don't know. Like, I don't ever want to make a movie that works for everyone. I think if I make a movie that works for everyone, I've done something severely wrong, because then you're not pushing at the boundaries of things. But I don't know how we're making movies for us. We're making movies that we want to watch. And I think, why sometimes we find ourselves in long takes is because, like, you want to live in the moment and you want to capture it in a way. It's also like when you use a single camera and you just live in a sort of like in that perspective, you don't shift the perspective. So you're holding perspective for a longer time. And every scene we're coming into going, what is the perspective of this scene? And we might be in tight close-ups for a good portion of the scene and then pop out to a wide master, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that table was broken, and it gets like there's ways in which we're constantly trying to find visual comedy but visual storytelling, and so that's just one tool that we use, and obviously with The Climb we used it a lot of the movie, and that was sort of the constraints that we were operating with, and with this film that's not the case, but there's moments where we don't want to let off the gas and we want to keep it contained. And I think that just happens to be one of the tools.
And I will say, as a performer, in being in that kind of a movie, one, shooting with film that's rolling out, and two, shooting, we shoot a lot of the scenes in long periods of performance. And I think it's really nice for me as a performer to be living in those scenes, and really just, it helped me to get more immersed in it, as opposed to like a 2-camera coverage where you're just sort of like snapping out lines and trying to cover the thing, to really just have the breath and time and space to perform entire scenes and live them out and feel the cadence and feel where you want the jokes to naturally come out. That I think is really rewarding with the process.
Yeah, I can imagine. And really, it's really rewarding to watch too. I feel so exhilarated watching those scenes whenever they happen. It's all the time we have, unfortunately, but thank you so much for speaking with us today. And
I'm so pumped you were there at Cannes at that moment, because it was such a unique, what a wild experience on our end. Like we've definitely never experienced anything like that.
It was incredible. And the only applause that I heard during a movie.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you both again.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.